Welcome to Joint Locks training from Martial Arts Concepts. During this series of videos, we'll be looking at joint locks used within the martial arts. We're going to cover 5 basic joint locks. We're mainly concerned with the mechanics of the opponent's body. So we're looking at the angle of their wrist, the angle of their elbow, and the bits that actually cause the pain and make the joint lock work, rather than how we get them into a joint lock or how we fall onto joint locks. We'll discuss these at a later date. The first wrist lock we'll look at is otherwise known as Nikajo. We're looking to make almost like a letter Z in the opponent's arm, from the shoulder, through the elbow, through to the wrist. When performing Nikajo, one of the first things the opponent will do is raise their elbow to get out of the joint lock. So we place the hand on the elbow to prevent it from raising up. The next part of the wrist lock is to collapse the wrist joint. So we're taking his fingers back towards his forearm. So from here, so before we apply any more of the lock, we've already got an effect. The next stage of the lock, after we've collapsed the joint, is to use circular rotation, following on from the previous collapsing of the wrist, and then circle the wrist. The final part of the wrist lock, at basic level, is to use circular rotation and take his fingertips towards his nose, then down towards his groin. Following on from the wrist lock, or Nikajo, we'll look at Sankajo. This time what we're going to be doing is manipulating the wrist, the elbow and the shoulder joint. We have different variations on the lock. We're going to go for one of the more painful versions. So we start off by taking the opponent into the Nikajo position. The opponent's natural reaction, as we mentioned earlier, is to raise his elbow up. So as he raises his elbow up to get out of the lock, he more or less puts himself into the Sankajo position. So from here, we step in, taking his hand in towards the center of the chest. We reach around, grabbing hold of his fingers, and turn them in a small circle back towards his chest. To add more pain and effectiveness to this joint lock, we use a step and rotation in the body. So from this position, he raises the point of the elbow, we step in and grab, we step behind with the leg and rotate the body. The armbar, otherwise known as Hijigime, uses a manipulation of the wrist and the elbow joint. We rotate and take the tips of his fingers up towards his shoulder joint. Then, behind the point of the elbow, in the V of the muscles, we press downwards and push towards the top of the shoulder. Taking the opponent's arm in an opposite direction, we have Kotegaeshi, which is turning his wrist in a small circle. First thing that we do is to take the fingertips again towards the point of his elbow, collapsing his arm inwards. We then take a small circle, taking his little fingers around back underneath themselves. To add more effectiveness to this joint lock, again, we step and turn the body. So from here, we step behind and turn. The figure 4 joint lock is one of the most complicated, but one of the most effective joint locks. For this joint lock, we grab their right wrist with our right hand. We take the left arm over through the point of his elbow, wrap underneath, and we grab hold of our own forearm. From here, we make the figure 4. We then take the point of the elbow into his shoulder joint and we pull his wrist down towards his ankle. I hope you've enjoyed this introductory video to joint locks.